Welcome to the Bell Cow Author Roundup podcast, where we celebrate Minnesota's incredible fiction authors and the stories that make our literary scene so vibrant. I'm Rob Jung.
And I'm Michael MacBride. Together, we're the team behind Bell Cow Productions and the Bell Cow Catalog, a digital catalog designed to connect Minnesota authors with readers, libraries, and indie bookstores.
The catalog will be heading to all 377 Minnesota libraries, 80 plus indie bookstores, plus those in border cities such as Sioux Falls, Fargo, Superior, and La Crosse.
And now with this podcast, we get to bring those amazing voices to life. Every episode features one of our herd members talking about their books, their writing journey, and the stories behind the stories.
And before we start, let us apologize for all the cow-related puns you're about to hear.
All right, let's dig in. Well, welcome. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by our guest, M. Stone Mayer. Mike, you said you could call us that, who is the author of Ashes to Ashes. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Appreciate being on.
Yeah. And we appreciate you
Mike.
being part of the Bell Cow catalog, which Rob will probably inundate us with a couple bad puns, because that's usually what
Of
we do.
course,
So
it's required, you're now part of the herd. You have to listen to that sort of thing.
Well, it seems to
Tell
make
us,
sense. I live in Northfield, so our motto is cows, colleges, and contentment. So being part of the herd seems like it made sense to me.
perfect, perfect. Tell me this. Let's start right out with Ashes to Ashes, which is a thriller set in Oregon. And your educational background is, for the most part, related to the environment and to the wilderness and biology and that sort of thing. Why a thriller?
Well, yeah. So yeah, my undergrad and grad work was in wildlife and fisheries biology, and then I from Massachusetts, and then I went west to study environmental law in Portland, Oregon. Um, and I've always been kind of enamored with the outdoors. Um, my grandparents ran a conservation school in New England. And so growing up, I was in that kind of world in terms of understanding nature and being part of it and trying to figure things out. And then I've always enjoyed writing. So I remember all the way back in, I think, seventh grade, we had the option of either taking, French, Spanish, or a Latin creative writing course. And because Latin's a really marketable language, I chose that one
Yeah.
in terms of the creative writing part. And so part of the class was we would write, so many hours a week, just creative stuff. And it always really energizes me, especially when like it's kind of funny. Someone says, "Well, why don't you write nonfiction?" And I was like, "Well, I live nonfiction every day, and I read nonfiction for my full-time gig, and so writing fiction is a way for me to escape." And also to really energize the creative side of me. And so that's why I started writing. It was really almost a coping mechanism in law school. I would disappear and
So,
get into my head and
so,
start writing.
so your manuscripts ever come out originally in Latin then?
No.
No. Okay.
it'd make it very difficult to read it. I couldn't imagine the audience that would be interested. So
Well,
Yeah,
a lot
both
of
people, right?
priests.
everybody always told me I was supposed to learn Latin so I'd do good on the GREs and those kind of things, but somehow I never got around to it. So you did it. Did it help out? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, it was seventh grade Latin. So, I learned, some basics, but and then I took Spanish and it was all, a variation of those basics. So, um, but yeah, other than like, all the wildlife and plant names are also scientific in terms of Latin. That's about where it all ends for me.
Gotcha.
You took 10 years to write this book, according to your website.
I did.
Explain that journey.
Yeah, so I wrote basically at the time I was finishing law school. So a lot of my time was taken with that. I had a young kid as well. And so most of my writing was done in 2 hour increments in coffee shops in the Northwest on the weekend. And so that was part of it. I couldn't ever like sit down and just write every day kind of thing. The other issue was that I had no idea as my first book. Um, word count. in the genre at all. And so I remember going to a pitch fest for Thriller Fest in New York City and pitching to an agent, and the agent saying, "So, how many words is your book?" And I said, "Oh, it's about 180,000." And she said, "Oh, you know it should be around 90." So I'm like, "So I need to cut out every other word, is what you're saying."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back and, I took I like to say I took a scalpel and not a machete, and carved out, backstories and side stories that really weren't important to it. Um, and then, started the whole marketing piece of it and trying to get something. I wanted to go more like a traditional publisher, and so trying to get an agent and get a publisher and all that kind of stuff. And then COVID, grew up in the middle of that for a couple of years as well, and folks weren't really taking an interest in first time authors, and we had paper shortages and ink shortages and all that other stuff going with it. And so yeah, so 10 years to get published, I guess. Maybe not 10 years to write, but 10 years to get it to something other people can read that aren't related to me, who aren't related to me.
So I'm curious then all the stuff you carefully carved away, are you saving that for a prequel or a spin-off in some way or
Not really, not really. There were some things like, oh, that was an interesting take on it, but I don't. Yeah, there's not enough there for an entire story. Um, so it was, and just backstory that just wasn't needed at all. I mean, I think I edited it, I don't know, 10 times going through. So
yeah.
and it still reads like it's one book and not like a Franken book of paragraphs put together. So
Sometimes those sections are important to the writer, I think, to like
right,
build those stories and understand that. But then you're right. I think with the wisdom of like a chisel and somebody giving you a prompt to do so, you realize like, wow, there's a lot that doesn't need to be here. Even when I read sometimes, if I'm asked to read section, I'll go through and I like cut out chunks that just aren't interesting when you read it out loud,
right.
and then I'm like, why is it there in the first place? Maybe I shouldn't even include that. You can keep cutting as much as you want. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm
That's
currently going through that with book two.
so. You tell us a little bit about you've got this highly caffeinated half book called Ashes to Ashes. Tell us about it. Give us a little preview of it.
Yeah, so Ashes to Ashes, a guy wakes up in the middle of the Oregon wilderness, can't remember who he is or how he got there, and doesn't know that the people he worked for are trying to kill him. And as he works his way through the wilderness, his memories start coming back. And he starts, as he pieces things together, realizing he might not be the hero in his own story. And so it's kind of almost a rebirth for himself, like a reinvention, as he's trying to figure his way back. And he meets some folks that help him piece things together. And it's very much like a cat and mouse book until the mouse starts chasing the cat. And so yeah, it's meant to be a page turner. There's a little bit, well, there's a fair amount of environmental kind of crime associated with it as well, with murder and conspiracy and all those other things. So and kind of stems, I got the idea for it when I was driving home from a class in law school, and it that just I was like, oh, that'd be an interesting way to do that, and that just kind of launched my creative juices into writing it. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Some of the folks that have read it said that they wanted to know more about him, like, and it's like, well, he doesn't know a lot about himself yet because he's still trying to piece together his past, and so you don't get to know more than he does, kind of thing. So that's kind of the premise of the book.
Seems only fair.
So
Go ahead. Sorry.
how did you find your publisher then?
Roundabout way, my publisher I found from a friend who knew the publisher and asked her if she'd be willing to read my book.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah. And so I sent it to her. And she said, I just binge read that over the weekend. I couldn't put it down. So yeah, I totally want to, work with you to get this out there. So that was how I ended up with Henshaw House Publishing and in Milwaukee and got my first book out.
That's wonderful. That's the kind of feedback you want to hear for sure. Like
Yeah,
that's the
Yeah,
dream,
right,
really.
right?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, it
right.
was amazing. I want to help you with this. So,
yeah, yeah.
That
well,
I have
As
query
a,
letters that stack, this
oh,
high that would not
okay,
reflect that same
okay.
emotion.
You have your own three-ring binders of rejection, like
Oh,
the
sure.
rest of us. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
it's just
Yeah, it
about
was not
finding
a.
the
It was certainly not a one-shot deal.
just about finding that right person at the right time for sure. So,
Yeah,
but well,
exactly.
why don't you give us a taste then, if you would tell us a
Yeah,
little bit
sure.
about what you're going to read us, and then give us a couple minutes so we can hear what it actually sounds like.
Yeah, well, I'm actually just going to read chapter one. Um, the chapters are kind of short to kind of build tension and kind of expectation, and so I think I can fit chapter one into this time frame. So,
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great.
okay. The moon broke through the clouds, illuminating a gray mist that had formed after an evening rainstorm. Rising up like spirits, the mist moved through the dark Oregon forest before settling among the evergreens. Far below, an ancient river flowed through the hushed night. The driver of the small pickup truck took it all in. The wind whistled in his ear, coming through the small gap of his window. Will Mercer checked his rearview mirror, momentarily blinded by bright headlights trailing close behind. He was being driven by instinct, by fear, flight winning over fight. When his eyes refocused, a yellow highway sign with a large black arrow indicating a sharp curve appeared out of the headlight blinding fog. He slammed on the brakes a second too late. All four wheels locked and the truck slid sideways across the rain-soaked road, crashed through the guardrail, and plunged into the gorge. The pickup slammed into the water, the impact sending Mercer headlong into the windshield. Instantly, he was surrounded by a cold darkness trying to crawl inside his head. Stay awake. I have to stay awake. I gotta get out of here. His thoughts muddled, he fought to focus on the task at hand. Get out of the truck. The river was deep in this place. Its muddy bottom lay somewhere far below the surface. Water was pouring in through the partially opened window, filling the small cab and making it sink faster. The truck had sunk 15 feet before Mercer thought to pull the Smith & Wesson 38 from the glove box. Fear gripping his chest, he shot out the passenger side window, its tempered glass shattering. Cold water surged in, quickly filling the cab. He shoved the pistol into his waistband, and with one last gulp, wriggled out through the blown-out window. Halfway through, his denim jacket snagged on the door lock. Panicked, he rolled out of his jacket, leaving it to sink to the bottom. His lungs burned. He kicked furiously for the surface, but as he neared it, the current sucked him downstream. He fought hard and finally broke through the surface to fill his fiery lungs with cool night air. The river raged, the current growing stronger. In certain places, it cut deep into the rock that lined the banks and flowed around scattered boulders, ancient basalt rocks rising out of the water like giant chiseled teeth. The current swept him into the first rock, hitting it hard and smashing and slicing his knee. The next few seconds were a blur as he fought to avoid dangers he couldn't see. The current spun him around and dragged him headfirst downstream. Suddenly, the water pushed him headlong into a dark shape rising from the water's surface. His world went black. A large black Cadillac Escalade fishtailed to a stop at the top of the gorge, its headlights shining on the far cliff wall. Two men and a woman jumped out and ran to the edge in time to see the truck sink into the swirling darkness, its taillights fading into nothingness. The woman ordered her men back into the vehicle, anger flashing in her dark green eyes. They quickly obeyed. She climbed in last and slammed the door. As the Escalade turned back the way it had come, she pulled a cell phone from her black leather jacket and dialed a number. A man's voice on the phone answered. Miss Carson, tell me something. Mercer's dead and buried, replied Carson. Good, the man said, and the phone went dead.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I don't really want to turn the page at all to hear what happens next. That's,
Spoiler
yeah.
alert, he doesn't die.
Okay, yeah, well, we hope not. Otherwise, the book would have been really short.
And it's not a series, so sure.
Okay.
So I'm curious about I love process. I mean, that's one of my I think just as writers, I don't know, I'm just drawn to that. So was this the first thing you wrote, or was this something that came afterwards, like in your process in terms of writing this novel? This
Um,
scene, sorry, just to be
this
clear, like
scene,
chapter one. Like, did you actually begin with chapter one? Sometimes
I
you dig
did.
in. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I did. A lot of it, so a lot of the places, I kind of, I read a lot of folks like William Kent Kruger and others that really have the imagery, gives you a sense of place. And I wanted my writing to be similar. I wanted you to make you feel like you're there, like you actually have walked this area before in your life. So a lot of the places I write about, I have walked, and I know this spot, though it doesn't quite line up. It's there, and so some of it is just um, me me recreating some place I've been. So some of the other scenes in here are actual places I've been, um, in the wilderness itself. And then really wanting to make sure I could hook a reader, so that you don't get when they're at the bookshelf and flipping through a book, right? You may get them for a couple pages, and so this is a couple pages, and if this hooks them, that's great. Um, and so that was part of the goal too, was to write something that would hook you real fast and make you want to read the rest of it, or at least another chapter. And I definitely, when I was writing it, I also kind of learned to pace it in terms of, you can't write nonstop action all the time. You got to give the reader a break to like catch their breath and relax before the next, it's almost like waves in the ocean, right? You ride one, but then you need kind of like a trough and before you go up the next one, like a roller coaster or something. So I definitely have some chapters in there and some other stories that come together in the end, that aren't as fast paced, but help set that plot line and the action behind it.
So, do the characters from this book, From Ashes to Ashes, carry over into what you're writing now?
Some of them do, um, and some don't. So, yeah, so I have drafts of book 2 and 3 done, and then I'm working on book 4. I'm about 60% done with that one. So not 10 years for each other book at
Okay.
all. Um, but yeah, so probably 3 of the main characters come back to book 2. Um, and then yeah, as we go, you know, uh, more stories develop and different characters come in, different bad guys and different good guys. So
So, when will book 2 be released and what's its name?
so I am hoping I need to work something out with my publisher still. I am hoping next summer, and it is called In the Crosshairs. Um, book 2 and 3 also take place in the Pacific Northwest. Will is from Minnesota up north, is where he grew up. And so he comes back to his roots in book 2 and 3. But the main part of the books still take place in book 2 is Oregon and Washington. Book 3 is really based around Seattle, and then book 4 he is up in the Northwoods.
Cool. I was curious if your series has a as like a title for it, like is it the Northwest Murders or I don't know. I struggle to come up with what those series titles are called, but do you have
Yeah,
one in mind that like holds them all together?
I don't. What I have on my book is a Will Mercer thriller.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sure.
so that kind of pulls it together with him, which is kind of a funny story. That wasn't his original name in my book. And I remember talking to, I went to a thing in New York City about writing pitches. It was a pitch workshop. And one of the editors was there for one of the publishing companies. And so my original name, she's like, I don't think so. I was like, well, I was also thinking about like Will Mercer. She's like, yeah, I could date a Will Mercer. I'm like, okay, he's approachable. Let's use him.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
that's interesting.
Yep, it was pretty funny.
So, so, Michael, lightning round?
I sure. Yeah. So yeah, this is how we decided to kind of end and wrapped up the episodes are with these rapid fire questions, lightning round, whatever you kind of want to call them. I'm curious. I mean, you talked a little bit about some of the people that you read that inspire you. What author do you go back to time and time again?
Um, let's see. So I definitely enjoy the Minnesota authors, the John Sanfords and the William Kent Kruger. Kent's a really nice guy, very approachable, willing to talk to authors, which is great. Also, um, yeah, uh, let me see.
That's what I often have to do is look at my
You may need to
bookshelf
edit
as
as well.
well.
Martin Cruz Smith, and his Arkady Renko series, it started with Gorky Park, so years and years and years ago, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I love his stuff too. His final book, Hotel Ukraine, I just grabbed, which will be the end of the series. So I definitely like his stuff too. Lee Childs and others, and even some of the psychological thrillers as well. I enjoy. So I like when there's a twist that I can't see coming, right? Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that was the twist. Okay. Kind of picked up on that in the second chapter, but so anyway, those are some of the folks I like.
Cool.
If you could spend a day with anybody, living or dead,
Oh
who would
no.
it be?
Hmm. So, non-writing, I would probably spend a day with Aldo Leopold. Um, he is no, I don't know if you folks know who he is. So he's the
No.
father of conservation.
Mm.
Mhm.
He wrote essays called the Sand County Almanac, which is almost required reading for anybody entering the environmental field. It's full of essays and just about thinking about, in terms of uh, our actions now and how they affect what happens in the future, and being thoughtful about those things. So he has one essay called "Thinking Like a Mountain," and it's after he's gone and hunted wolves in Arizona, those types of things, and he realizes that as the hillside starts being denuded from vegetation because too many deer, maybe those wolves were necessary, and so we should think like a mountain rather than like a person in terms of time scale. So anyway,
Interesting. I love that idea. The name didn't sound familiar, but I've definitely heard the Think Like a Mountain, and I'm sure it's been emblazoned on, images or something across the internet. I probably came across it that way, but um, so yeah, let's see. I'm curious about childhood memories, and is there something that stuck with you that continues to kind of, I don't know, shape you today, or that guides your compass that happened early on?
wow. These are not lightning questions I was expecting. I was expecting like, what's your favorite color? And
Red, no blue.
wow. Uh, um, yeah, I think as a kid, like I mentioned early on, I was very much raised with grandparents that were very much into the outdoors and learning from the things around us and that kind of stuff. And so, I was a little bit too young to be in the camps that they were running in the summertime. But I got to be that little kid running around. And so a lot of those memories are pretty formative in terms of, I think how I ended up where I was professionally and then what kind of creeps into my writing as well, in terms of the backstories and the scenery and that kind of thing.
Sure.
This is a little quicker question for you, and it's particularly appropriate since you are so involved in the environmental world. Uh, if if you could paint the sky, but you couldn't paint it blue, what color would you paint it, and why?
Oh, interesting. That is, huh, wow. Um, Maybe a light green? I don't know. I've seen the Northern Lights, and
Mm.
sometimes those lights are pretty nice. So if I got to pick a color, I guess I'd go with like a Northern Light green
Okay,
kind of thing.
I like it.
Yeah. How about favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie. So I guess that's probably changed over time, but as a kid, and this is kind of time appropriate, but Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid was like one of my
Oh yeah.
all-time favorite movies. Just the dynamic between, Redford and Newman was great. And yeah, I was always a big fan of that one. Um, and then maybe more recently, I don't know, favorite movie, but I really enjoy watching it, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't know if you've seen that one with Ben Stiller. And he totally gets inside of his head, of things he wish he could do, but he can't. Also a great movie, and the soundtrack's amazing. So yeah, I enjoy
I,
that
rem-
one too.
Okay.
I remember reading that story in grade school or something and going like I didn't understand. I mean, I understood what was happening, but like you don't have the life experience to like come to that and really understand until older. So
Right.
yeah, when that came out as a film, I had to watch that, and I love how they brought that to life. Like there were lots of elements that really resonated with me. But all right, Rob, I'll give you the last question. What's the last one for him here?
Last question. Oh boy, now you get the pressure on.
Make it good.
All right. Tony Bennett, Carrie Underwood, Katy Perry, or Andrea Bocelli?
All together singing a song? Sounds pretty
No,
cool.
pick one.
Oh, I would go with Bocelli, actually. Yep.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me
It's
too.
like what did he The Blessing? Is that one of his
Yeah,
songs he did with Celine Dion? That was amazing. So
it was an
yeah.
amazing song.
Yep.
So, is
Yep.
there anything you want to close up with? You want to tell us something that we've missed, or you want to add anything?
Or tell us about events where people can find you. I
Oh,
assume
yeah.
you probably have
Yeah.
something coming up. So
Yeah, so Saturday, November 8th, at the Union Depot in St. Paul, I will be having a table as part of the Twin Cities Book Festival. So please come down. I have a giant poster of the cover of my book. You can't miss it. It's a guy walking through fire. So it's it's pretty uh recognizable. Yeah, I'd love to. I always love meeting folks to talk about books and writing and what they like to read as well. And then also, willing to go to other bookstores and talk to folks and have those types of things as well. So always looking to meet more people and get my name out there a little bit more. I'm not a native to Minnesota, so learning still. I've been here for 14 years, but as we all know, that doesn't make me a native to Minnesota. So still trying to learn places and people and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you're in good company because none of us are natives to Minnesota. So,
I was to say I'm from Michigan and Rob grew up in California.
okay.
So
Yeah.
Nice.
But we all got smart and gravitated here. So,
yeah. Well, we'll be sure to include all the links to your webpage,
Great.
to events that are coming up in the comments and things like that, so people can find you, of course. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I really
yeah.
appreciate it. It was great chatting with you and getting to know you a little better.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you reaching out to invite folks to be part of the herd, and I look forward to seeing the publication you guys are putting together as well as the other podcasts that you're doing. So thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
And don't forget, you can see this book and more from Minnesota authors in the Bell Cow catalog, heading to libraries and indie bookstores across Minnesota and beyond.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bell Cow Author Roundup podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday with another amazing Minnesota author.